everyone, it's Sharon here. Today I've got a card to share with you for Kuretake. The theme this month is space, so I've found this stamp in my collection that I bought a while ago from Hobbycraft. I'm stamping it on watercolour paper with versafine onyx black ink. The watercolour paper I'm using is from Hobbycraft, and it's a Dale Rowney pad that was really good value. It actually says it's a mixed media pad rather than just watercolour, and I found it's really good for using with the Zig Clean Colour markers. So I've stamped the image in versafine so that the ink won't run as I colour. And today I'm going to be colouring straight onto the paper rather than using a water brush. Now what I like to do with these markers is I start around the outside with a darker colour and then sort of pull the colour inwards with a slightly lighter shade. The darker colour here I'm using is the turquoise green, which is number 42, and the lighter colour is the light blue, which is number 38. And then for the greens, the darker green is olive green, which is number 43. And I'm pulling that in with mid green, which is number 46. And again, I'm just using the darker colour around the edges and then kind of pulling the colour in a little bit from the edges. This is quite a small image, so there's no point sort of doing tons of shading here. And then I'm just adding the dark green to the little buttons on the bottom section, and then I'll use blue on the top just to give the contrast. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of grey at the bottom. Just looking for my light grey. Rummaging around in my pot, here we go. And this is light grey, which is number 91. This is a really good colour if you want to outline your images as well, because it's just a really nice pale light grey. So now that's all stamped, I'm going to fussy cut it out. The scissors I'm using are Fiskars scissors, and they're really great for doing detail work like this. They're spring loaded, so it just makes it much easier. You can get right up to the line if you want to. I'm leaving a tiny little bit of a border this time. So once I've got that fussy cut out, it's ready to use. Next step, I've die cut from some light blue card a circle that I can put the rocket onto. This is the Starburst Sayings die set, which was a Sizzix set for Stampin' Up, and it's just the right size to put my spaceship on. I'm going to do a background first though, and I want to create a sort of starry background using my Gansai Tambi paints. Now my video camera wasn't recording when I stamped this background before putting the paint on, but all I've done is I've stamped with Versamark ink this star background, which is from a Lawn Fawn stamp set, one of the new Christmas sets. There's a lovely background that's just got stars. So I've stamped that with Versamark and heat embossed it with white embossing powder. So I can add my watercolour paints and the embossing powder will resist the paint so that the stars will show. I'm just putting various shades of blue. I'm using some quite dark blues here so that it looks like a night sky. And I've added in even some sort of pale lilac colours as well, just to make it look like a starry sky. And once that's all on, I'm just going to, this is a purpley sort of bluey colour, and I'm just going to flick that on. And rather than wait for this to heat dry, I'm just going to give it a quick blast with my heat gun now. So next stage is I want to stamp a greeting, and I've got this really sweet little saying from a paper tray ink set, which was the Tiny Treats birthday set. And this says Out of This World, which goes quite well with the spaceship. I've got some black cards. Because I'm going to be heat embossing this and I don't want my powder sticking everywhere, I'm just using a powder tool just to rub across the card first so that my embossing powder doesn't stick anywhere it shouldn't. Otherwise it might stick to my fingerprints. So I'm inking this up with Versamark clear ink, and I'm going to stamp it just in the corner so I can then cut it into a strip. And the white embossing powder I'm using is Wow embossing powder, and this is the super fine bright white. I find this one's perfect for greetings because it's a detail powder, so even if you've got quite small text like this, it still comes out quite clearly. So I'm just putting my lid back on because I'm terrified of knocking over my powder all over the floor. So I'm just going to hit this with my heat gun to melt the powder. As you'll notice, I'm holding my heat gun away for a few seconds just so that it's nice and hot as I bring it to the card. If you take it straight to the card, it'll take longer for the powder to melt, which means your card will warp more. So it's always best to get the heat gun nice and hot before you bring it across to the card. And I can just wipe off that powder. It's just like a sort of talcum powder. So I've cut that into a strip, and now I'm just going to create a little banner on one end by cutting directly across. Then I'm just going to snip into the card a little bit, and then from each corner I'll join up with that little slit so that I get a flag shape. I've got dies that do this, but it's quicker if you just want a little strip like this. It's easier to just do it this way. So now I'm ready to put my card together. I'm going to put quite a lot of adhesive on the back of this because it is a little bit warped from all the water that I've put on it. So I'm going to make sure it's got plenty of adhesive on the back. So I've covered the back with adhesive. I used my Scotch ATG gun and I've put it literally all over the back. I've probably used way more than I need, but I just want to make sure this isn't going to buckle at all with the water that I've added to that watercolour paper. So I'm pressing down firmly to make sure that it's nice and flat. And then I'm going to work out the placement for the card. I'm going to add some foam pads to the back of this die cut circle so that it's got some dimension and sticks up from the card front nicely. So I'm just popping some foam tape on the back. You can see now that it's dry that the colours have really come out nicely on that starry background. That's the good thing with the Gansai Tambi paints is the pigment in them is so strong that the colours really are quite vibrant. So I'm really pleased with how that's worked out. So I'm just peeling the backing off my foam tape. I can work out where on the card I want that. I think I'm going to also add some foam tape to the back of my spaceship image. I think that will look nice with a bit of dimension as well. And I'm just deciding how to place this, and then I decided that really it's probably would be going straight up if it's just taken off, so I'm going to put it that way. And then as always I'm going to add some shimmer with my Wink of Stella pen. Now you can see I'm scribbling off to the side because the Zig colour pens would reactivate with the liquid from this, so I don't want to get any green Zig pen in the blue area. So as I'm touching the coloured areas, I'm just wiping the pen off to the side just to make sure I don't pick up any of the colour and transfer it. Then I've got my text banner, and I sort of working out where I want to put it. I don't like it there. I don't like the way it sticks out the side, so I think I'm going to put it in the bottom corner here. To stick this down, I'm going to use some of my Zig two-way glue pen. and I'm just scribbling some on the back. This is really useful for small pieces because of the quite fine nib on the pen. You can put tiny dots if you need to, and then I'm just going to put heavy acrylic block on that for a second, just till it sticks down. I quite often do this when I'm working, actually, when I'm sticking pieces down. I just put the acrylic blocks I've got are Stampin' Up ones, and they're quite heavy, so it works quite well. So the card is finished. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I'll list all the supplies I've used in the description box on YouTube, so if you want to have a go yourself, you can find everything there that I've used. Thanks ever so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye.